The Art of Communicating by Thich Nhat Hanh. Chapter 1. Essential Food. Nothing can survive without food. Everything we consume acts either to heal us or to poison us. We tend to think of nourishment only as what we take into our mouths, but what we consume with our eyes, our ears, our nose, our tongues, and our bodies is also food. The conversation going around us and those we participate in are also food. We are consuming and creating the kind of food that is healthy for us and help us grow. When we say something that nourishes us and uplifts the people around us, we are feeding love and compassion. When we speak and act in a way that causes tension and anger, we are nourishing violence and suffering. We often ingest toxic communication from those around us and from what we watch and read. We ingesting things that grow our understanding and compassion. If so, that's good food. Often we ingest communication that makes us feel bad or insecure about ourselves, or judgment and superior to others. We can think about our communication in terms of nourishment and consumption. The internet is an item of consumption, full of nutrients that are both healing and toxic. It's so easy to ingest in a lot in just a few minutes online. This doesn't mean you shouldn't use the internet, but you should be conscious of what you are reading and watching. When you work with your computer for 3 or 4 hours, you are totally lost. It's like eating French fries. You shouldn't eat French fries all day, and you shouldn't be on the computer all day. A few French fries, a few hours, are probably all most of us need. What you read and write can help you heal, so be thoughtful about what you consume. When you write an email or a letter that is full of understanding and compassion, you are nourishing yourself during the time you write that letter. Even if just a short note, everything you're writing down can nourish you and the person to whom you are writing. Consuming with mindfulness. How can you tell what communication is healthy and what is toxic? The energy of mindfulness is a necessary ingredient in healthy communication. Mindfulness requires letting go of judgment, returning to an awareness of the breath and the body, and bringing your full attention to what is you and around you. This helps you notice whether the thought you just produced is healthy or unhealthy, compassionate or unkind. Conversation is a source of nourishment. We all get lonely and want to talk with someone. But when you have a conversation with another person, what that person says may be full of toxins like hate, anger, and frustration. When you listen to what others say, you are consuming those toxins. You're bringing toxins into your consciousness and your body. That's why mindfulness of speaking and mindfulness of listening are very important. Toxic conversation can be difficult to avoid, especially at work. If it is going on around you, be aware. You need to have enough mindful awareness not to absorb this kind of suffering. You have to protect yourself with the energy of compassion so that when you listen, instead of consuming toxins, you are actively producing more compassion in yourself. When you listen in this way, compassion protects you and the other person suffers less. You absorb thoughts, speech, and actions you produce and those contained in the communications of those around you. This is a form of consumption. So when you read something, when you listen to someone, you should be careful not to allow the toxins to ruin your health and bring suffering to you and the other person or the group of people. To illustrate this truth, the Buddha used the graphic image of a cow that has a skin disease. The cow is attacked by all these kinds of insects and microorganisms coming from the soil, coming from the trees, coming from the water. Without skin, the cow can't protect herself. Mindfulness is our skin. Without mindfulness, we may take in things that are toxic in our body and mind. Even when you simply drive your car through the city, you consume. The advertisement hit your eyes and you're forced to consume them. You hear sounds. You may even say things that are the products of too much toxic consumption. We have to protect ourselves with mindful consumption. Mindful communication is part of this. We can communicate in such a way as to solidify the peace and compassion in ourselves and bring joy to others. Relationships don't survive without the right food. Many of us suffer because of difficult communication. We feel misunderstood, especially by those we love. In a relationship, we are nourishment for each other. So we have to select the kind of food we offer to the other person. The kind of food that can help our relationship thrive. Everything, including love, hate, and suffering, needs food to continue. If suffering continues, it's because we keep feeding our suffering. Every time we speak without mindful awareness, we are feeding our suffering. With mindful awareness, we can look into the nature of our suffering and find out what kind of food we have been supplying to keep it alive. We find the source of nourishment for our suffering. We can cut off that supply, and our suffering will fade. Often, a romantic relationship begins beautifully, but then, because we don't know how to nourish our love, the relationship begins to die. Communication can bring it back to life. Even to our produce in our head, in our heart, in China, they said in our belly, feeds that relationship. When you produce a thought that carries suspicion, anger, fear, irritation, that thought is not nourishing you or the other person. If the relationship has become difficult, it's because we've nourished our judgment and our anger. We haven't nourished our compassion. One day in Plum Village, the French retreat center where I live, I gave a talk about how we need to nourish our loved ones by practicing loving communication. I spoke about our relationship as flowers that need watering with love and communication to grow. There was a woman sitting near in front who was crying the whole time. After the talk, I went to her husband and I said, "My dear friend, your flower needs some watering." Her husband had been at the talk and knew about loving speech. But sometimes, we all need a friend to remind us. So, after lunch, the man took his wife for a drive in the country. They just had an hour or so, but he focused on watering the good seeds, the whole drive. When they came back, she seemed completely transformed, very happy and joyful. Their children were very surprised, because in the morning when their parents had left, they had been sad and irritable. So in just an hour, you can transform another person and yourself, just with the practice of watering the good seeds. This is applied mindfulness in action. It's not theoretical. Nourishing and healing communication is the food of our relationships. Sometimes, one cruel utterance can make the other person suffer for many years. And we will suffer for many years too, in a state of anger or fear. We may say something that can be poisonous and destructive. If we swallow poison, it can stay within us for a long time, slowly killing our relationship. We may not even know what we said or did that started to poison the relationship, but we have the antidote: mindful, compassion, and loving communication. Love, respect, and friendship all need food to survive. With mindfulness, we can produce thoughts, speech, and action that will feed our relationship and help them grow and thrive.